Hey, humans, how are you doing? You're right, Future Shock.
Good evening, Truthspoon. How are you doing?
I'm enjoying it, man. I'm enjoying it. How hot and bright it is.
It is pretty
The weather.
beautiful, even through the slight London pollution. It's nice. It's certainly better than the alternative of some kind of like horrible dark winter. So yeah, no, it's been good.
But as usual, as you can
Here we
see
go.
from the Sky
Some
News article, we have to worry about it.
yeah. I was about to say like we can't have we can't have nice things, can we? We can't have nice things without there being some kind of doomsday proclamation. It's like the opposite of a silver lining, isn't it? I don't know what you could call it, like a sort of rubidium lining or something. I don't know.
The Doom Machine, man. 46. I don't know. It's all conditionals though. When you look into language, it's code, and it's no one knows what's going to happen in a way, right? Honestly, I don't know what you think. Do you think?
Well, no,
it could
because
happen?
they say these things. Look at the time it's put up as well. Look at that 11:11. Did you notice?
Oh yeah, nice one. 11:11. Yeah.
Yeah, but these
11
kind
is the devil's number, you know. I mean,
I know.
it's seen as that, as 11 is, you know, because 10 is perfection, but the devil wants to be beyond God, so it's 11, you know.
But yeah, it's appropriate.
In the occult, you know.
As we apparently, according to what was this Sky News, are going to sort of cook in some sort of like hell-esque fire anyway at some point soon, according to this. But yeah, they were saying they've been saying this for years, haven't they? That because I remember them using the example. I say they, I just mean like the general, mainstream media. They've been saying about like, oh, it's going to be like Qatar and stuff like this, which is obviously like 47, 48. They've been saying that stuff for years, and they'll keep on saying it. They won't let us enjoy the sun without like making us try to feel. What do you reckon? It's just is it to try and keep us feeling some kind of fear in the increased enjoyment that we get from summer? They're getting a bit happier because it's summertime, got to try and bring them back down, sort of thing.
There is a fear of the sun for them is unknown. It's really something they do fear because they can't predict it. So they know there are solar cycles, and as the old priests would predict the eclipses and such, they're doing the same thing. They know that there's going to be peak solar activity, and during that time, there's like a lot of active psychic force. I'm serious, actually, you know.
But that makes sense.
Can you see that screen? Yeah,
I can see it. Well, that kind of makes sense because doesn't that? Okay, I might be wrong with what I'm about to say, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But I mean, if there is increased psychic occurrences, that's probably due to increased levels of electromagnetism, which would be increased if there was more heat from the sun. Would that be a roughly correct?
Exactly. And all of the waves, the EM waves, the invisible, unknown things that come out of the quantum realm, the sun, you know, it's really beyond. It's not. It's just amazing, and it's something that is beyond control of our controllers. You know, it's the one thing they can't control.
It's like the best time. I think the most sort of like chimerical and kind of like dreamlike time of, or surreal, whatever word you want to use, time of day is always that morning time, that dawn time. And that, as far as I'm aware, I remember reading a long time ago, don't have the source to hand, but that is apparently the time, that kind of dawn till about 8:40 sort of thing, is at the time when there's the most heightened level of electromagnetism in the air. So that kind of
from dawn until dawn.
From like the sunrise until about sort of 8:30 a.m., something like that. Apparently, this is what I've read previously. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's when there's a heightened level of electromagnetism, and I wonder if that's why that time of day feels so kind of different. There's something different about it, isn't there? There's something slightly dreamlike about it. Now, that could also be a relativity thing in the sense that, especially if you live in a city, like if you're wandering around the city at sort of 6:30 a.m. as the dawn rises, as the sun rises, and no one's around, it's obviously quite surreal because it's usually hustling and bustling, isn't it? So it could be a bit of that as well.
Would you bear with me a minute? I've got a little bit of sound on my end. I'll just would you just fill something for me for a minute?
I'll hold the fort for a little bit. Yeah,
just for a second. Talk about something that you've been thinking about. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'll just carry on chatting what I was saying. Because, yeah, I mean, I've often found that, you know, I go out to a lot of drum and bass raves, things like this, and obviously they end at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning. And even if I'm doing it completely sober, which is obviously every single time, because obviously this channel does not recommend doing anything of any untoward illegal nature. But yes, coming out or even just being about at that time under any circumstances, there's always something a little bit, for want of a better, less cliched term, magical about that time of day. And I've often wondered that, is it to do with the increased level of electromagnetism? Does that do something to the brain that kind of helps it kind of like sort of tap into more sort of higher dimensionality thought and thinking and kind of like interpretation of reality? Or sort of, I suppose, and stroke, or it could just be the fact that it's very different at that time. Most of the day, especially if you live in a city, it's hustling and bustling, ignorance of civilization, lots of people, lots of traffic, and you know, when it's 6 a.m., 6:30, it's so calm. Maybe it's that calm serenity, that juxtaposition of calm serenity. But having said that, I would say that I felt the same when I was a kid. I always used to think morning was a bit more special, and I grew up in the countryside where there was definitely no.
Okay, I've just clipped out. So are you around at the dawn? Do you get up there? Do you feel that? Do you wake up early?
So when not usually, I would like to recalibrate my day to do that, but just the way things are at the moment, I end up working late till about 1 a.m. and then obviously it's very difficult to then get up at the 5:30, 6 a.m. Do you know what I mean? So in an ideal world, if I was like pro at music, for example, and we were doing this pro as well, you know, and I didn't have to do the 9 to 5, yeah, I'd definitely get up earlier. I'd definitely recalibrate my day. I'd get up early. I'd do an early gym session, early walk.
Okay, so you're an early morning kind of guy, right?
Ideally, but just at the moment, well, I'm a weird man. I can do both. I can be a night owl. To be honest with you, I don't really want to sleep. I just want permanent consciousness. But
really?
Yeah. No, I've often actually. This is an interesting question.
Hey, listen, that's far out, man. You need to have that detachment. That's why we sleep. We detach. We like all the problems of this world are cut off. If your mind is tuned, or if you can just embrace that reality, then you're free. You're in a different. You're free of this dimension.
I definitely get that, and I definitely get how it kind of is necessary in like a human 3D experience. But I've often wondered, like, when we go back to the 4D experience, you presume there's no sleeping involved? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something.
Yeah, well, that would be permanent consciousness. Yeah, and no need to eat or sleep. But you're in eternity. You could go to any place, but your consciousness in the light, and you're part of unity. And I mean, what is the attraction of having an earthly life? Is it like Robert Monroe and those kind of people who psychic researchers? Is it like that people are on a game or an adventure, and they choose to come here to experience sort of an adventure life? I think they go back, and then that's quite interesting. Sort of, that's what I've heard about from Robert Monroe, who I respect as a psychic researcher.
I've thought before it could be something like. Do you remember when Elon Musk went on Joe Rogan and they were talking about the simulation theory, and he was like saying about, oh yeah, well, it's you wouldn't make the simulation more boring than the base reality sort of thing. And I think it's kind of along those lines. But for me, maybe what it is where we come from is a place of non-physical reality. So the experience, we don't get to experience the thing. We don't get to our consciousness doesn't experience in 4D the same physical things as it can in 3D. So perhaps this is kind of like a game or an excursion or even like a holiday, for want of a better term.
Could be,
you're just here just to experience what it's like to eat and drink and have all these kind of these sort of earthly 3D experiences, because you don't have that in 4D. Maybe it's just that kind of thing. It's just to experience it for a bit. The VR, again.
If you think about the variety of life in the universe, how many stars, how many galaxies, there's an almost infinite variety, and it's ever growing, and you can just experience something new every time. Like you come back here, if you choose to come back from the light, and there are so many worlds and so many situations and so many adventures you can have in the whole universe. Do you know what I mean?
Oh
Because it's all preserved in the light, because it's eternal. That's the whole point of photons. They're like sticky putty. They absorb. They are reality, and that's how movies work. Can you believe we can watch a movie even in 3D? Because it's just light. Because it can preserve so much integrity of reality. Because light is the basis of reality.
Well, I wonder where it goes. As weird a question as that may seem, like
That's a really good question. But yeah,
where does the
but
light go? Because you talked about I liked your phrase you used. I always nick it, the eternal photonic library. But where
is that one of mine? Is that one of mine? That's a pretty good. That's definitely something I would have written about. But yeah, that's
it's stuck in my
eternal
head.
photonic library. That's what it is, man. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, where? So where is that? And I kind of agree with that idea, because it's like, where does it go? It has to go somewhere. So,
but it's been not bounded in space because it's eternal. It's like light, apparent movement of light, and Einstein's relativity. It's only in 3 dimensions, but once you're in 4D, then it's infinite and unified and complete. So there's no sense of going or coming or you know what I mean. That's just how it is. I mean, for me, it seems to strike me like that. I can't describe it.
It's very much like lucid dreaming, and it's the one thing I would say about lucid dreaming is it has more of a linear orientated nature to it than just sort of regular dreaming, where you're almost watching the dream in a way, aren't you? Again, to borrow one of your quotes, you said something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing slightly, but you said, you know who you are in a dream, but I'm probably not able to tell you my name, but I know who I am. And I think that makes sense. Like, if you're in the dream, you're still you. You kind of might forget that you're called, Simon or Trevor or whatever. So it's interesting to think, is that level of lucid dreaming kind of similar to what the ultimate 4D return realm?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it was known as the astral realm and such before, but it's like a frequency spectrum, really, and that goes back to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is an amazing production. Have you heard of it? We've all heard of it, but
it's not no, not the Necronomicon. Is that a different thing?
No, it's not that. No, it's Buddhist text. It's about guiding the departed as they're passing out of this life into the next realms, and outlining their choices. And it's prayers. It's monks doing prayers and reciting these prayers, trying to mentally guide that spirit as it's the dead spirit of the person. It's actually absolutely amazing. It's really incredible. It's that because it sort of offers there's realms. There's like obviously like some kind of if they can embrace what the light and the Brahmin or the Buddha consciousness, if they can without shame, there's some kind of thing about you've got to be. I mean, you have to be pure. You have to be pure in your mind. Or at least try to be pure in your mind for as long. And it's a kind of meditation, but that's how meditation can lead to nirvana, because it leads to this purity in the mind where you just have no thoughts and you can find something hidden inside yourself, right?
Well, that ties in as well with when people are on like on the golden ratio, or when they're kind of like in the flow state. Because when you're talking and you're properly talking, you're not thinking. I mean, you get this a bit. You can imbibe this a bit with drunkenness, right? When you have a few drinks, when you relax, and you're not necessarily thinking about what you're saying to each other. It's all just kind of flowing, and like that's a similar flow state, kind of flow state idea, I think. Because there's no thought. I'm not, necessarily. The more you seem to trip yourself up more, the more you sort of think about what you're trying to say, which seems to be a bit oxymoronic in a way, because logically you think, well, the more that you think about something, the more that you use your brain power, the better you should be at it. But the opposite seems to be true for a lot of things. It's like when I'm DJing, or if somebody's playing the guitar or the drums, I'm completely my best performances are when I'm not thinking of anything else. I'm just literally flowing. I'm not even really thinking about what I'm doing. It's just happening. I'm to some point almost observing it whilst I'm doing it, if that makes some kind of sense.
So I'm going to sort of switch the track a little bit now, because we've been talking about the solar activity, but it is very important, and it's something that they don't control, and it's something that has a power beyond this world. I mean, I wonder if, from what I can observe about how the sun is connected, the solar wind reactivates uranium in the Earth crust and sets off subterranean earthquakes and volcanoes, and sort of, I think this probably could happen cyclically. You know, I mean, you wonder if Mars. I mean, I know you like thinking about other planets, but you know, was Mars once a habitable place, and it was just ravaged into volcanic chaos by a massive solar event or something. I really think that we underestimate how powerful the sun is and how much it's connected to our lives and what it could do to us, man. Because I've been looking at the sun, man.
I was just going to ask, sorry, I mean, whilst you talk about that, I might try and find it in the background, but basically there was a picture that came out. I'm not too sure how old it is. I saw it just put up on social media, and sometimes these pictures can be from ages ago. It doesn't really matter in the context, but basically it's a picture of Mercury next to the sun, and it just shows you how ridiculously kind of gigantic the sun is compared to Mercury, and then that's only like 2 planets ahead of us. So you think to yourself, we already know, like we've already discussed on this channel, isn't it, that the sun is basically trying to kill us every second. So, like, I mean, we're already got our shields up, you know. We've already got the kind of force field up in terms of the magnetosphere and this kind of stuff. It's a magnetic shield around the Earth and the thing, you know, that causes the auroras and this kind of stuff. So we're already kind of like fighting a battle against it as a planet.
Yeah, but it's a kind of harmonious relationship. But you wonder, I mean, you know what I believe about the sun and how it is conscious, that it is the quantum portal. You know, that's why my website is called Quantum Portal, because that's what it is. It's you wouldn't call it a white hole effectively, but it's a dimensional tear.
No, I want to digress, but that was one of my favorite episodes of Red Dwarf. But we can talk about that another time. Every time someone talks about a white hole, I just get that scene in my head where they're all moving around and time is going in different, like they're going to different parts of their conversation. Oh, that program, honestly, brilliant! What a program!
Apparently, the sun contains 2.34 trillion tons of gold. Wow. That is twice the amount of water in the Earth's oceans. And if that was dumped on the Earth, it would just fill the oceans. Everything would be gold. 2.34 trillion tons of gold.
Yeah, it's some mad stat that like all the gold that's mined in the world. Like if you think about how much gold you see, which you kind of, to the perhaps untrained eye, appears to be a lot of gold. It only would, if you could take all the gold, it would only fill up like Wembley Stadium once. Something crazy like this. I would need to find out the exact quote on that. But the idea being that there is really not that much gold on Earth, hence it's valuable, I suppose. You know, hence its value, scarcity, value, and scarcity.
Yeah. So there's all these Earth volcanoes going on, man. It's like it's getting apocalyptic out there, man. Let me double check the locations. Have you heard about the earthquakes? Do you watch TV?
No, I don't have a TV. So.
No, I don't, man. So they're pretty not.
Well, this is basically turning into our weekly end of the world update, isn't it?
End of the world update, man. Yeah, for sure it is. So, was it Indonesia cancels flights following Bali volcano eruption? Bali. Yeah, that seems to be big news in Bali, actually. So, yeah. Gosh, but I mean, it seems apocalyptic. Look at it, they're pyroclastic clouds, and they're like nuclear explosions. Do you know what I mean? Look at
that third one. It's crazy. It's almost got a mushroom.
This thing's incredible. So far out, man. So
is this so? What's happening now? Are there charts, graphs, whatever, that demonstrate that this is a heightened level time of activity, or is this just stuff that's kind of normally happening anyway at the sort of this time of year, or is it this is just to do with the solar cycle, essentially, the heightened solar cycle?
Well, that's a good question. You know, there's many possible influences in the sun because, like I said, the sun is a form of consciousness. So you can. I'm going to tell you something. But you can actually tune into the signal of the sun. You can actually tune your mind into it.
How would you say? What would be the process of doing that? I mean, I've actually kind of like
the first process is awareness of what the sun is, and then just sort of kind of tuning into it. But then maybe I don't know. Tune into it, and you find the light. You find this eternal, infinite realm.
Because I remember when we first were speaking, when we first met and sort of knew each other, we used to talk about how, like, if you could just, but again, I'm sort of paraphrasing it to some degree, but we used to talk about how, like, if you could just hold an image of the sun in your head, or or just like a sunny day at the beach or at the countryside or whatever, that can kind of like sort of embolden you and kind of help you like get through your day and like help you to sort of like calibrate better to sort of discern your way through reality better and stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm going to defer.
That's partly around the time I was doing the whole what were we finding 10Ps and finding travel card stuff. That was around the time I was doing that. I was also
trying to manifest the light in yourself. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's like that's from Harry Potter. That's even. I mean, I didn't study from Harry Potter, but that concept appears in Harry Potter. That's how he defends himself, doesn't it, against Voldemort at some point or somewhere or other, right? Do you ever watch the Harry Potter movies? He has to find a perfect image of something nice in his mind, and that protects him. Something pure, something nice.
But it makes sense what you're saying.
I think it's his mother that he sees, and it's like I don't know. So go on. I'm not a Harry Potter expert, but I definitely observed that kind of magical thing. It's a real magical thing, but that's something that they tell people.
Put it this way, like people might scoff at the idea of someone saying that the sun's got consciousness or whatever. But put it this way: the sun creates things. The sun helps create the environment for things that have consciousness. So why would it not have some kind of consciousness itself? And ditto the earth as well, that sustains all the things that are conscious. So I don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. So like with what you're saying. So I think it makes sense. It would make less sense to me if the sun didn't have some kind of consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, how can you have something from nothing,
Yeah.
Like exactly. How can we be from the ground? I mean, how is our anime and our mind, how can that be something from earth? That's from something eternal. Just filling, that's like populating the earth. It's like melding with matter. Hence the yin yang symbol of, humans coming to earth with their spirit, but melded to matter. And all the problems associated with that.
Mm.
So I'm going to bang on Stephen Burns here. He's quite familiar to the show by now. But every wonderful stream he does is wonderfully apocalyptic. So just going to try and defer to him. I've got so many windows open, man. I mean, because it's hot, I got my windows open. Can you tell me if you can hear this?
Hey everyone, geophysicist Stephen Burns here. There is a huge energy wave that's currently rippling across our planet and in fact across the entire solar system, causing different energetic disturbances. For example, here on Earth, we've had Luotobi Laki volcano explode multiple times, sending ash up more than 6 miles into the air. We've also just had Tropical Storm Eric rapidly intensify into a hurricane, and that immediately set off a magnitude 5.8 earthquake as it's starting to make landfall. You'll notice that there's a rapid intensification of this hurricane right after the 1.2 X-class flare that we had on the sun less than 24 hours ago. Here's that earthquake, boom, 5.8, a stormquake. And this solar flare that occurred, this massive explosion on the sun, was exactly Earth center direct. In Mexico, happened to be on the sunlit side at that time. So we had the X-class flare, then we had a rapid intensification of this hurricane, then we had that.
Yeah, there are some nice images of the sun, actually. Let's see if they show like the flares as they happen.
Earthquake, really nicely showing the connection between all three systems. And in general, there's just a lot that is happening at this moment in time as it relates to solar activity. New coronal mass ejections have launched from the western limb out towards Saturn and Neptune.
Discussion,
we had these Earth-directed solar flares, and we do have some solar storm impacts that are coming in any moment now. So in this video, we'll do a quick breakdown as to what is happening energetically with the sun and the Earth, and then we'll go into detail as to the connection.
It's hard not to trust someone with such great hair as well.
You like his hair?
I mean, not in a kind of zesty way, but I'm just saying he's got
zesty. He does have zesty hair. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean,
Emitted
it's
from the sun
he's always on the
from
money. Isn't
explosion.
I'll mute him so you can just see the sun sort of flaring up. Look, the thing is, the Earth is sort of somewhat protected because it's a small point far away from the sun. But if these things hit the Earth directly, they cause potentially unknown things to happen, which it's happening. It has happened, and it could happen in the future. Are you with me?
So how far can they potentially strike out, punch out as such? Like, can they?
Well, they can go. I mean, these plasma ejections, they'll head off in all radiant directions at every point, but they will as far as Uranus.
That's worrying.
Hot plasma, yeah. Coming at Uranus.
Uranus. It's got to worry anybody, really, hasn't it?
So I don't know. Should we worry? I'll close that one. I think we're done with him for the minute. Yeah. Lots of fearful articles coming out about the sun now. I'll just try and share some more. And we're not fear mongering, but we are reporting on the fear mongers, if you know what I mean.
But the thing is, what he's saying is making sense. I mean, he's showing you where the flares are hitting, and then he's showing you that there are actual genuine increases in things like hurricane strength and stuff like this. So, I mean, is it a coincidence? Are you going to claim it's a coincidence? Like, it's the Occam's razor, isn't it?
So even Yahoo News is going on about it. You know,
you can't claim that it's a coincidence, surely. It just keeps happening.
Yeah, so I mean, Yahoo, who even pays any attention to Yahoo? But it's from USA Today, so actually they're reposting an article from
Yahoo even exists still.
June 18th, literally quite fresh news, actually. The sun has emitted a powerful solar flare that has capacity to interfere with technology on Earth. Yeah. Burst of radiation. So that's one such article, but there are many. I'll just close that up.
Well, you never see them on main. I mean, I don't know if you have, but I've never seen them on kind of like mainstream news main pages. You know, if you open up the BBC website now, I mean, don't even need to do it. I'm sure you're not going to see anything about this. Even in the weather section, you probably won't see anything about this. I bet if I go to the weather,
do you not get this on the? No, you wouldn't, would you? It's so yeah. They don't report on solar activity because
yeah, it is a literal threat to the climate.
They don't want there to be a connection between. Well, scientists are having to admit that there's a connection between the sun and climate, but then they're trying to do that sort of man-made global warming thing, and so they can't say too much. They have to obfuscate the truth and massage the figures, which was what they reported during East Anglia University. If you remember that, they were just fixing everything. So the predictions came true, but they're like different factions fighting over the weather and over just life on Earth in general.
Why can't we just sort of get to the bottom? Well, I just don't understand. I mean, I know there's political. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dumb. I know there's political kind of things going on. But it's just a shame that we can't just have especially it's a shame that science is something that becomes politicized. I mean, you would hope that at least science could be free from politics and we could just get on with the business of finding stuff out, finding the truth out. But there's still so many politics in that, and then there's all kind of like argument. Look at things like, I know it's slightly off topic of this topic, but look at things like ancient civilization, ancient history, and how people kind of argue about from traditionalist points of view to the new sort of wave of people who think various new things about places like Egypt or the Amazon. There's no coalescing. There's always these different factions arguing with each other. And I'm not trying to be like some sort of like hippie, let's all come together, blah, 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 John Lennon type shit. But I'm just thinking, why does science have to be so politicized? Why can't we just...
Money, bro. Money, man. Money. Everything's money in their world, Everything's money, bro. So listen, I just put up another fear article here. I mean, look, I don't know what the kind of Economic Times is, but it is reporting. It's actually reporting quite scientifically about what the sun's doing. So it's pointing out it's an M-class solar flare erupted from the sun June 15th, causing radio blackouts in shortwave radio frequency. Because June 15th, there's plenty of coronal mass ejections, which are, as this article, a large explosion of solar plasma and magnetic field. And then the solar wind hits the Earth and creates geomagnetic storms and other phenomena, though, because light and the sun, it's unknown to us what forces it can unleash on us, you know, and what the nature of light really is, which, yeah.
It's still crazy to think that we are so new. Everything is still so new to us, even though juxtapositionally, we presume to some degree anyway, a lot of people presume we're quite advanced, but we're really not. We still don't understand shit about what goes on. We're really like still at the very, very beginning of our understanding of everything. I mean, obviously we know a fair bit. We've got our computers. We're here with our computers in our houses. We have various contraptions. We drive our cars and whatnot. You know, so we have figured a few bits out. But obviously, as we can safely suggest, there's a lot more to find out. A hell of a lot more. So, like, what?
So that's the aim of the game, man. That's what we're trying to do. Find out what's going on.
Trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it may be a shock. That's why it's called Truth Shock.
It's going to be
And
a lot
of truth. Use Future Shock, so it goes together. Seen this article, man? Another one. I don't know what a central bylines is, but that's quite alarming. And if you do put, the thing is, if your searches are like about the sun, you will find things like this, but otherwise they won't be reported. So solar storms are increasingly threatening our life on Earth. We live in the sun's atmosphere, and space weather is closer than you think. That's quite a good article. Solar storms can have serious impacts on our life on Earth. Solar storms, geomagnetic storms triggered by massive eruptions from the sun's surface. Giant clouds of magnetized plasma hurled into space. When one is earthbound, it can interact with our planet's magnetic field, sending powerful currents surging through the upper atmosphere. Lincolnshire, right? Gosh. Anyway, yeah, Carrington event. I've reported somewhat on those things, but yeah, geomagnetic storms, yeah, and maybe worse.
So, just what I was talking about before. Sorry, I'm just going to put this up quickly.
You're putting that up, yeah? Okay, go.
What I was talking about before. Let me just move this to a new window because that's annoying. Hang on. Now I can do it. Yes, I don't know if I can. Can I enlarge that? No, it won't enlarge. But you can see that there on the right hand side. That
and if your touchpad allows you, if you can flex your fingers, open your fingers, it will enlarge if you have a touchpad. But actually, yeah, it does. But
yeah, it's not.
I mean, due to one of those
doing it for some reason.
No. Okay, so sunspots. Yeah,
it's kind of like
Mercury.
That's Mercury. Yeah. So that goes to show you we're pretty close.
That's incredible.
Because people have the oldie timey version. Everyone grows up at school, and at school on the wall in the classroom, you've got that typical poster of like the sun with the planets all in a procession behind it, which we know obviously is not true. It's just very misleading. You don't quite grasp the nature of the reality of it until you see things like that we're looking at there. Quite how close. I mean, that looks pretty bloody close. Do you know what I mean? That's crazy, and we're not too far off that. So of course, yeah, we're totally in the atmosphere of the sun, as the pilot was saying.
As they say, yeah. Actually, there was recently on June 11th, 10th and 11th, there was the major lunar standstill. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Show me that, yeah.
So I'm going to share a video about this event happening and how it's connected to ancient stone sites and such.
Okie dokie.
There were people actually, yeah, there was someone I know, and he actually observed it. He was on Primrose Hill, and someone told him that there's going to be the strawberry moon, they call it.
Okay.
Yeah, they call it strawberry moon, but really it's the major lunar standstill where the moon sort of comes very close over on the horizon.
Strawberry Moon also was one of the first clubs I went to when I came to London.
That's pretty coincidental. Yeah.
As a piece of fairly useless information, but yeah, I think that was, oh my God, yeah, that was a good 22 Earth years ago. Craziness.
So I've got a video where I'm going to, in a minute, I'm going to just post some footage of the actual recent major lunar standstill. So give me a second. Inshallah. Here we are.
Thanks to Where's Doll's Dance Doll House for the wishes of good luck, by the way, in the chat there.
Oh, is he in the chat? Yeah.
Is this a
God,
friend of
God
yours?
bless him.
Go on, Truthspoon. Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, God bless him. Yeah, God bless him.
God bless Where's Doll's Dance Doll House, which God, I had to sort of like think to pronounce that, but yes, very nice.
Okay, so the recent major lunar standstill. You know what's annoying about using PCs and Windows is that it's like it's trying to recreate a 3-dimensional world in 2D. So navigating between windows is so flipping annoying. We should at this point have a possibility of actually having sort of a better. It's be like if your mind can adapt to seeing things on their side. Because with Windows, you're looking at things that are flat and like they're blocks, and they're just hidden behind each other. So you can never find where anything is because it's all hiding. So but if you had it all on its side and could see it stacked like tiles, it's like a different. I think that's got to be the future of Windows. It has to change because it's so clumsy right now.
Oh yeah, we're still very well. This is kind of what I meant a few minutes ago when I said everything's still really new. It's still very clunky, as much as we think things are advanced.
Yeah. So anyway, can you tell me if you can hear this?
Mastering the lunar standstills.
Yeah, that's fine.
Nice. Okay.
Investigations of archaeological monuments, particularly Stonehenge, have led some investigators to propose that lunar standstill alignments were designed into some ancient and prehistoric sites. In the 1960s, C.A. Newham and astronomer Gerald S. Hawkins independently identified lunar standstill alignments in the station stones rectangle at Stonehenge. The rectangle enclosed the main circle of the stones and was constructed earlier, perhaps 4,500 years ago. The long sides of the rectangle coincide with the directions of major standstill southern moonrise and major standstill northern moon set. Here is the view to major standstill southern moonrise, and here is the Stonehenge station's view to major standstill northern moon set. Hawkins also proposed sight lines between certain gaps in pairs of archways formed by the large sarsen stones, erected perhaps 500 years later. This pair of openings accommodates the major standstill northern moon set. Stonehenge was not, however, the first prehistoric standstill alignment. In 1908, British naval officer Boyle Somerville published a major standstill northern moonrise line for the Callanish stones in Scotland.
So I talked about the Callanish stones a few times on the show. If you remember how it was written, was it Herodotus and History of the Northern People or some such? It was supposedly this island in the Hyperboreans, the far north, where they got beyond the north wind, and they said that Apollo visited every 18 years, and he was visible to the people and was present. It's moon basically, but it was like revered as a thing, you know, that they could guarantee that would happen at that time, and it was like they could say it was like they made it into a big cult and a religious big party and all sorts. So that's what these stone circles are kind of kept commemorating, because often they're if I continue the video, but I think there's a image of the moon. Actually, there's some good footage. I'll just carry on a little bit with this.
Scotland's Outer Hebrides. In the 1980s, Gerald and Margaret Ponting instead favored an alignment down the long axis, more or less, of the circle to.
So I'll skip to the footage they have of the June 11th, because look, you did. I think you mentioned yourself about London, how it's so polluted and hot. Then wherever this is, Griffith Observatory,
the major lunar standstill southern.
See how low the moon is, but how it's like polluted, especially a full moon.
Moonrise, and as you can see,
Is it LA? Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh.
moon has risen. You can see it. Almost the entire disk of the moon is now visible above the southeast horizon. It rose out of the murkiness around the horizon because there's a lot of humidity in the air right now. And now you're going to see the moon rise much more clearly as it gets above the murk and the clouds. And in a few moments, we should have a pretty spectacular, nearly full moon. And so we hope you continue to enjoy this.
I'll skip ahead and just do the full moon. Kind of a still image though, isn't it? Yeah, it's a still image.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah. They could. Yeah, this is a still image close up, but yeah. Okay. Okay. That's enough again. But yeah. But I was trying to find anyone commemorating it, and it's very rare. It's very hard to find anyone talking about it, apart from sort of scientists, observatories and stuff, because it's really effective. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say that I heard recently about the moon that when they looked at the makeup of I hope I'm not going to butcher this, but if memory serves me correctly, when they looked at the makeup of the sort of the soil of the ground, the dirt, or whatever you call it, the surface of the moon, the top surface was older than the surface below it, which suggests a kind of an excavation of some kind, which is quite interesting because you would obviously expect the highest ground to be the newest, right? And it just gets older as it goes down. But they found it to be there's like a layer on top that's older than the layer underneath from their experiments that they were able to do. So that's quite interesting. I don't know if you knew that.
Okay, on the moon, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the layers are older on top and newer beneath.
Where the point where they landed, they did some various experiments, and they found that where they'd landed anyway, obviously, they can't say for the entire moon, perhaps, but yeah, the surface layer was older than the layer underneath it, which obviously doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah, okay, but there's a lot of moon. We get moon rocks, don't we? We get things from the moon. We get meteors that were part of the moon at one point. Things like that, right?
Yeah. It could just be some random thing. Yeah, it doesn't say that much about the whole moon.
Yeah, we need an expert to talk about that. It's not me though. Yeah, about the moon.
Yeah, we're going to appeal. Can we do an appeal for a moon expert? Someone.
Exactly.
Yeah, come join us. Can come in the chat and give us a bit of a lowdown on what's going on that thing. Yeah, apparently there's people who actually take the hollow moon thing way too seriously and think it's actually hollow. I mean, it's obviously more hollow than the Earth. I mean, the Earth is kind of like, it's kind of like a Rolo, isn't it? And the moon is kind of like a Malteser in a way.
Yeah.
So it's very different. But people take it when people hear hollow moon, they think of an actual empty space under the surface.
A crunchy thing, like something you could crunch into.
Yeah, the moon's
a big three-dimensional Wheato or something.
And the Rolo's got.
If you had a big enough mouth, you could crunch it.
Yeah, now I'm starting to get a craving for.
You're hungry now.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Right.
It's not easy. Especially when you're being gym. I mean.
Yeah. So you went to the gym, yeah?
Yes, and speaking of heat pollution, Jesus Christ, yeah. Cheers to the gym,
hey, man. I cycled into East London, bro, from Southwest. I traveled across the city. It's absolute mayhem. So many tourists. So many people, man.
Where did you go from?
Obviously, through central London. Huh?
Where did you go from? Sorry.
I went to East London.
Okay.
Cycled across. Yeah. So listen, I'm gonna go. Yeah.
I was gonna say, how long was that? Was that quite a long journey you did? Is it? Obviously.
It's about an hour or something. It's quicker than the tube. Tube is just the Hammersmith and district's so horrible. It's so slow. I mean, have you been on the tube lately? Seriously.
No, I mean, blessedly, my job allows me.
One of these days, there's going to be a solar coronal ejection, and people will just be trapped on a train. I mean, for 2 hours because there'll be no power. That happens, and that's why. You know what I mean? Because it gets overloaded.
I was just going to say, sorry. One of the things I am very thankful of in my life is that I don't have to cram onto a tube in the morning. I blessedly get an overground, which also goes in.
That is blessedly, yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So I also like I cut, they're pretty crap with their timetables, but like when you're on the tube in the summertime, their aircon is like perfect. And luckily I go in the morning, I'm going out of London. I'm getting the train that heads out of London. So it's you always get a seat. It's always air conditioned.
That sounds cool, man. You're winning. You're one of the winners.
But you know what I mean? At least you're not cramming in with a shitload of other people. Yeah, on the tube. No, it's not great.
Right. Well, I'm just going to change track again because we are always interested in quantum mechanics and quantum physics, aren't we?
Yeah.
So this is the great Richard Feynman. Let me see if I can play this. Let me know if you can hear this. Future Shock.
Character. And this is, if you want to hear about the character of physical life.
All right. Well, I'll just explain a little bit.
Seen this before. I recognize this. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
So it's like a public lecture of various aspects of science, and this one in particular is something that Feynman. I mean, he's one of the pioneers in quantum mechanics, but even he says he doesn't understand how it all works. So I want to just play this and sort of show that the sort of. I think I've quoted before various scientists and how they're revolted by quantum mechanics. They hate the idea that there's something beyond their control. So I mean, there's various quotes. I think we've done it before. I don't know if Richard Feynman himself said, "I think I can safely say that nobody understands quantum mechanics."
But isn't that go on, sorry.
Yeah. No, well, and also there's Irving Schrödinger, of course, who's famous for the Schrödinger's cat paradox, quantum wave. And he only did that, as I said, as a sort of satire. But he says, "I do not like quantum mechanics, and I'm sorry I ever had anything to do with it." Roger Penrose, quantum mechanics makes absolutely no sense. I think Niels Bohr we've had, for those who are not shocked when they first come across quantum theory, they cannot have understood it. Einstein is, if quantum theory is correct, it signifies the end of physics as a science. That's Einstein.
That's what I was going to say. But isn't this like most of the point of being a scientist, a hardcore scientist, a committed scientist? Isn't it about poking into the unknown, finding things that are unknown, and trying to untangle the unknown, and not being afraid of it? That seems, what you're saying to me sounds almost like these people, not Feynman obviously, but other people who are kind of like against quantum physics. They're kind of scared of it. They're scared of this unknown.
They can't accept four-dimensional thinking, that there is something that exists in two states at the same time, but it's just a side that appears to us in 3 dimensions, but it's beyond what we can perceive, but it's both at once because it's got an extra dimension. It can transcend our observation of how it works by definition.
Though, because he's kind of like, I mean, I'm not somebody who is sort of like a scholar or has any credentials in terms of like quantum physics. I don't write books. I don't produce any materials about it. I try my best to understand it. And I am very open-minded to the idea that this is a very, very small. What we're experiencing is a very, very small amount of what is possible to experience. So why am I, who's not even a scientist? It doesn't make sense. I'm not even a hardcore scientist. Why am I someone seemingly more open-minded than a hardcore scientist? It's very strange to me.
I'll listen. Let's listen to Richard Feynman a bit, because I like the way, I think he presents really well, and he's a kind of like, he puts on a kind of a bit of a common demeanor, but he's actually he's very one of the first science publicizers, I suppose. I mean, what do you call those guys? Like Brian Cox and all those kind of people. Like,
oh yeah, the former
popularizer. Let's just check. Can you tell me if you can hear it?
Well, essential to talk about.
Okay, we'll try and get
this particular aspect. So it will be difficult, but the difficulty really is psychological and exists in the perpetual torment that results from your saying to yourself, "But how can it be like that?" Which really is a reflection of an uncontrolled, but I say utterly vain, desire to see it in terms of some analogy with something familiar. I will not describe it in terms of an analogy with something familiar. I'll simply describe it. There was a time when the newspaper said that only 12 men understood the theory of relativity. I don't believe there ever was such a time. There might have been a time when only one man did, because he's the only guy who caught on before he wrote his paper. But after people read the paper, a lot of people kind of understood the theory of relativity in some way or other. But more than 12. On the other hand, I think I can safely say that nobody understands quantum mechanics. Now, if you appreciate this and don't take the lecture too seriously.
That's kind of quite a radical statement, isn't it, really? It's like nobody understands quantum mechanics. I mean, this is one of the greatest geniuses, scientific. He sort of set the foundation for observing and attempting to find out what is the quantum realm, what is the nature of it, and he doesn't know. It's incredible, right?
Yeah, and where he says the bit where he says, "How can it be?" And I think he's kind of like quoting other people, isn't he? Saying, "How can it be?" That just goes back to what I was saying. It's like, but isn't that the point of science? Like these people who he's kind of like saying, like, they're just kind of questioning it, saying, "How can it be?" But that's the point of you. That's the point of them being a scientist, right? That's their job, to figure out how it can be. You can't just go, "Oh, how can that be?" Like if you can't refute it, they need to come with some receipts. Then come with some evidence to refute it.
Yeah, and it's so far out though for these guys, man. Because I think a certain type of mind becomes a scientist these days. I think sort of.
I think I could be a good
start school where you're
clever.
Yeah, but you decontextualize reality and you make it into a textbook about science and the material 3D world, but nothing else. And so you're programmed to believe only in this world as being everything.
Do you think it's kind of like a next level? How can I put this without sounding there's some kind of like arrogance tinge to it? But do you think that an understand, like what you just said there, the kind of like, do you think that like this understanding that it's not just 3D, there's a 4 dimension, it's kind of like a game changer? It's kind of like a next level look.
It really is, man. Exactly. Yeah.
I think we've had this conversation before where I've kind of said that I wander around, kind of not really. Kind of taking for granted the fact that I think stroke know these things, and that you and me have these conversations about these things when the vast majority of people don't. I think I forget because it's so imbibed, it's so imbued in me now, it's so inherent in me for years and years about 4D and everything surrounding what we talk about, that I don't know about you, but I kind of forget that other people don't think like this until you kind of interact with them. And I'm not like trying to put other people down. People have their own lives, they have families, they have other interests, don't get me wrong, but I kind of just sort of take it for granted sometimes that I kind of have this sort of like I've got this different level of understanding of reality. Well, I believe
yeah so I know, right? It's like because of the programming, because of the television, because everything's reinforcing the left brain perspective of life, that this world is all there is, but neglecting the right brain, which we only access in sleep or such. But there's like, you could say there's a vested interest in keeping things a secret, like not telling you what they can do and what they know how to do in terms of like literal rituals and the occult and managing reality and staging things and making things happen. This is what they do, but they're keeping people ignorant who they don't know about that possibility of interacting with reality more finally,
Just to sort of clarify what I said, like I'm not trying to sound like I think I'm better than people, but just more in terms of like, because I don't really know as such. What I'm saying is the fact that I think about these things, the fact that I'm kind of open and kind of pondering and wondering and talking about these things and trying to imagine what they are and like have some kind of level of understanding of it. Like I feel like it's been so long that I've been into this now, which is in a great part thanks to you and the conversations we had before and on the forum before. I just, because it's been so long now, I just kind of forget that this is not common knowledge. Well, of course, it's not common knowledge, is it? You know what I mean?
But it is coming out though. What's that? The Bridget Jones Diary movie recently, right? Apparently, from what I hear, they're all talking about electromagnetic consciousness. I don't know. No, seriously, I gotta check it out. I think she's like bereavement or something. And someone, I don't know. I just know people. I met someone, know someone who watched it, and I've read reviews of it, and it has some kind of, I won't say new age because it isn't that, but it's kind of what we're promoting. It's this electromagnetic view of consciousness that's eternal and it's in the light and it never dies, But it's literally coming. It wants to come out. It's got to come out. People have got to start making movies and writing scripts and you're getting ideas out, about this stuff. It's really interesting stuff, isn't it? Right?
it seems inevitable, doesn't it? I mean, you've seen, I mean, just look back over the last sort of 30, 40 years. This is why I've said, I think to you before, maybe even on the show before, that one of the biggest mistakes that the powers that be, the hierarchy, made was allowing the internet to be as free as it is, because the internet has obviously created spaces for people like us and for people to learn about things that we talk about and other things, and has created this sort of vast library where people can understand way more than they did in, like, you know, the 60s, 70s. So the collective consciousness is now becoming gradually more aware of the sort of things we're talking about. So just extrapolate out another 10 years, especially with AI coming in and people using that to learn things. You know, they know what's coming, don't they? The ones at the top, they know it's coming, and how are they going to stop it? Are they going to try and stop it? I mean, I think you know, the genie's out the bottle kind of thing.
So I'm just looking at this thing about this thing's all AI telling me everything now. But it's like Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy, explores themes of grief, healing, and the complexities of modern dating, particularly for a widow in her 50s. So I don't know. I think Darcy dies in it, right? In that plot. If you've ever followed Bridget Jones, she's like mad about, and he's dead. So, and I think there's some, like I said, I heard there's reference to, yeah, we can say healing, but there's actually a promotion of the idea of electromagnetic consciousness in that movie. That's quite radical. It's quite cool.
That's, I mean, because Bridget Jones's Diary is kind of like as mainstream a movie as you could get, really. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
Because especially because it's a movie that a lot of like women will watch as well as guys.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I'm really pleased about that. Yeah, things are getting out. Things are getting out there. Listen, I'll just play a bit more Richard Feynman because he's really good. I'll just give him like a minute or so. I've got a few little bits. Yeah.
Seriously, that you really have to understand in terms of some model what I'm going to describe, and just relax and enjoy it. I'm going to tell you what nature behaves like, and if you will simply admit that maybe she does behave like this.
This is quite an important bit. In fact, this is like a key quote. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Somewhere, but more than 12. On the other hand, I think I can safely say that nobody.
He's a kind of wisecracking guy. He's such a funny guy. This is a scientist.
He's riffing at the same time, isn't he? Because like
he's riffing.
Yeah, because you can tell he's got his notes that he keeps looking at, but when he comes out, he's obviously riffing. He's just doing like these little jokey comments off the top of his head, kind of thing. It's not planned.
Yeah, you reckon it's like half improvised?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's the impression I get. Yeah,
that's quite a show. I'll put him back on a bit longer. Yeah, because I think this essential quote's coming up though.
He understands quantum mechanics.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you appreciate this and don't take the lecture too seriously, that
this kind of it is where it starts.
You really have to understand in terms of some model what I'm going to describe. And just relax and enjoy it. I'm going to tell you what nature behaves like. And if you will simply admit that maybe she does behave like this, you will find her a delightful, entrancing thing. So that's the way to look at the lecture.
It's very, very true.
It's very interesting, isn't it?
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. But none of those scientists can embrace that vision of it. That seems to be the case. It's so incredible, right?
No, it's very true. It's kind of like he's pulling the light switch on in the room, sort of thing, so you can see what's really going on. Yeah.
I get understand.
I'll just give him a bit more. I think he's got a bit more stuff.
Well, you have to understand the English, of course. But in any sense, in terms of something else, don't keep saying to yourself, if you can possibly avoid it, but how can it be like that? Because you'll get
how can it be like that? That's like a key thing that is troubling these scientists. Yeah,
you'll get down into a blind alley in which nobody has yet escaped. Nobody knows.
A blind alley. It's so incredible. That is like, wow. He's evoking something, a dark alley of losing your ability to measure reality and then be confused because you're seeing eternity, but you're a scientist and you don't understand that, you know.
In English, of course. But in any sense, in terms of something else, don't keep saying to yourself, if you can possibly avoid it, but how can it be like that? Because you'll get down a drain. You'll get down into a blind alley in which nobody has yet escaped. Nobody knows how it can be like that. So then just let me describe
nobody knows how it can be
to you the behavior.
This is why it's so exciting. I know this is black and white footage from the 1950s.
Electrons.
It's sort of open for everyone to think about quantum mechanics implies and what it means and how it works, you know.
But kind of what he's saying as well is like, if you open your mind to some of these things and some of these ideas, then you will actually start noticing them a bit more in sort of everyday reality kind of thing.
And yeah, you become more of the the Copenhagen interpretation becomes true for you, because things can happen around, like willing things, or visualizing things, or trying to, just not coercing anyone, but just trying to. I mean, I don't really do it. The only last time I manifested something was I lost 20 quid. And I was so furious that I lost 20 quid out of my pocket after running. So the next day, I was like on the street in Old Street in East London, and I was like, "Where's that money? Where's my 20 quid? I can't believe it flew in my pocket yesterday when I went running." So I was walking with my friend, and for a moment he stopped and he looked down, and he found a pound coin in like 50p. He was like, "Oh, you!" And then the next step was 20 quid, and it was like, because I was so furious and I was so like, "Where's my 20 quid?" It came back like the next day. It's so far out, maybe not the same 20 quid, but it may be. But
it's like, yeah, you can't rule it out. Yeah, I mean, like, it's like the universe went, "Oh, whoops, sorry about that. Yeah, here's your 20 quid."
Yeah, I was indignant. I was indignant about it,
Yeah, I've had little things like that happen to me before. Yeah, I mean, it's just like I had that. Did I tell that story about the newspaper? Was I telling the story about the newspaper on the last show, where I was like, when I used to read newspapers way back in the day, and like I couldn't find one anywhere one day. And I thought this is more an example of the universe having a sense of humor for me. It's kind of like what I used to do is I used to read the newspaper like either on the way to work or both, on the way to work and at lunch. So I was kind of that kind of person. This is going back like 10, 15 years ago. And so so I couldn't find a newspaper anywhere. No, the shop didn't have any, and it was really crazy. I was just so pissed off. And at work, they didn't have any. So what the fuck? How is there no newspaper anywhere? This is absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, kind of like you, I was indignant. I was very indignant about it. So I had my entire day at work. I went back to the train station, and then I always stand at the same place in the train station at the platform. And where I walked over to where I would usually stand at the platform, and there on the ledge, right next to my head, basically, a bit like that travel card, was a newspaper, a folded up newspaper. I was like, "Oh, now you give me the newspaper."
Why did you want what? You wanted it in the morning?
Yeah, because usually it's just like
the Metro. You were trying to read the Metro thing or something.
Like either a Metro or I would buy something. I'd buy some newspaper, but like for some reason, all the shops and everywhere, there wasn't many.
Couldn't get a Metro. That's weird, man. Do you know what that means?
No,
that's something dark happening, man.
And the shop didn't have a delivery of newspapers or something like this.
Everything's going to dry up, man. Like supply and production, and there's no incentive. The contracts are not being paid up, and there's problems and cash flow. So yeah, man, that's why
Metro regularly. When I did back in those days, that would actually happen every now and then. You get to the station and then it'd just be like, "No."
Yeah, but free newspapers are a sign of abundance. I don't think we're going to live in abundance much longer. I think abundance is over. Do you understand what I'm saying? Seriously.
Abundant. What do you mean by?
I just remember. This was abundant. It's like cheap food was cheap. Even more so in Europe. If you go to Europe or something, it's like the abundance of nature is everywhere, and it's not expensive. And now everything is expensive. It's just changed. Everything's changed. We no longer live in abundant times. Well, the newspapers are drying up in the earth. It's like that's it. They're not giving newspapers away anymore. It's a sign.
There are people that think that.
I don't want to be like hysterical about it, but yeah.
There are people, though, that think that when the advancement of robotics gets to a certain point, that will bring the price of food and things like this down. It will kind of like sort of essentially make things free, because everything's going to be free to make, so you won't have to pay.
I don't see it happening, bro. I mean, the only thing they can do really is to reset, and then they're begging for war. I don't know what targets they have, because the Illuminati control all the sides. So they have a global strategy of what they intend to be the outcome from the next World War. And presumably there's some kind of life exists. But what was the quote? The Georgia Guidestones and all that. Do you remember that stuff? 500,000. Do you never heard of that? 500,000 people living in harmony and stuff. It's like like an evil prophecy of some kind of pagan nuclear button do-gooders who want to clean the earth and because they have to reset the system, but there's a sense that there's too many people on the earth. I mean, just think about it. Think about it as a logarithm. I mean, how many people died in World War I? Then sort of exponentially more in World War II in a different kind of combat. But the world is on so many fronts. They're begging for war. And do you think it's going to happen? I mean, I ask you now, Future Shock, what do you think? I mean, I'm not saying it's obviously preoccupation because we want to stay alive. You know, I mean, we're somewhat attached to this world, you know, in a sense. I mean, my folks and not super attached, but what do you think? Do you think something's going to happen, or we're going to?
What do you mean in terms of sort of like a worldwide apocalyptic type war, as opposed to all the bloody little?
Well, I don't know what it'd be because like Pakistan is now threatening Iran. You know, Pakistan has nuclear.
I would say like there is like a.
I mean, no, sorry, forgive me. That's a big F up. Pakistan's threatening Israel. I mean, gosh, Pakistan was threatening Israel with some kind of retaliation. So.
I mean,
yeah.
Because you just everything at the moment does seem to be. I can't deny everything at the moment just seems to be escalating. More people seem to be getting involved, and if that continues, then yeah, we're going to end up with a world war. You can't deny that. Like US, you know, Trump has come out and said, oh, he won't rule out US strikes on Iran. I think, isn't it today?
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
So then
I think we mentioned that the sort of so-called the grassroots, the MAGA Republicans and such, they don't want war. You know, they're for peace. They're for what's called isolationism, because that's the critic of that's the globalists criticize Trump as an isolationist because that's what America wants. They just want to make their own, produce their own cars and not be, you know, export them around the world, and the tariffs and such, the taxes are a way to protect American industry, and which is a good thing. But it's wrongly perhaps called isolationism, but it's make America great again. It's about America, and it's about peace as well.
But it's a case of just looking after your own people first. I mean, that doesn't mean you don't help others, but I mean, your own country does have to take. I mean, it makes sense surely that your own country takes priority if you're the government of that country. That doesn't mean you.
But also, there's enough common sense in America that the people got their heads right, but we now have a president who could easily. I think we discussed some things about Trump and what was alleged by Elon Musk. If you remember, we don't have to go into that, but there are things you can check.
Yeah, I remember.
Jeffrey Epstein and possibly connected to Donald Trump and some such. There's information. There's lawsuits against him, and I don't know. I would perhaps wonder if that's true, then how much control, how much leverage can that information have over someone, you know, to control them to do anything that they're told to by whoever has the videotapes, you know.
Well, if you think of a guy like Musk,
allegedly, but I'm not saying anything, just, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we know what we're talking about. Like, if you think about, this isn't just some like dingbat who's wandered in off the strip sort of thing. Like, this is a guy in Elon Musk who's been deeply involved in the government for a few months now, and at the top end of hierarchies anyway for many years. And he's coming out and saying it. I mean, obviously, he also on the flip side, you can argue that he has got a history of coming out and saying a lot of random shit that doesn't actually turn out to be true.
I do love it. I really like Elon Musk. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, I think, you know what,
he's one of those people. I mean, he rallied against our censorship and imprisonment of whatever imprisonment for free speech. I mean, for him, Elon Musk, it's incomprehensible. I mean, him buying X really sort of saved free speech.
I see Elon Musk.
And probably did elect Donald Trump as well. He did.
Yeah,
he was
massive.
Massive.
I see him a bit like the movie The Big Lebowski. Like, I mean, if I ask someone if they've watched if they like The Big Lebowski, and they say no, and I'm kind of like, yeah.
What's wrong with you? That's such a cool film. And I might have watched that tonight.
It's kind of the same with Musk. If you speak to someone about Musk and then they start cussing him out and saying that he's an idiot and he's a moron, and you think to yourself, right, okay, this isn't a person I want to mess with, you know. But yeah, by the way, we should say if no one's seen the movie Big Lebowski, that is an absolutely quality movie. That's absolute must watch classic.
I love the idea of going to this local sort of store in your dressing gown. It's so cool.
And paying for
one
milk.
day. I've done that before. I have actually gone to the store with my dressing gown. So yeah, I do. Yeah, that's one dream satisfied. Actually,
that's one kind of like Big Lebowski sort of like dream like type. You've lived up to the Big Lebowski.
I love Turkish carpets as well. So I love that movie because I love the carpets. You know,
it has to be. I mean, it's very difficult to to do a top 10 movies, isn't it? Especially when you're a little bit older, like we are. I think it has to get in my top 10. Yeah, 100% gets in my top 10. I don't know about top 5. It's probably close, but it is an absolutely amazing movie.
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
haven't seen it, you know
what, we for next time we could draw up a list of top 10 movies actually and discuss them, because
that'd be
I think that it would be interesting. Yeah, maybe not to anyone else, but to me, to us perhaps. So
but I quite like the challenge, because I would have to really think about that if I was going to put a top 10 together. Like, yeah, because there's just so many for different reasons, from things that are just great cinematically, cinematography or whatever, to also things that are just actual personal influences on you. Do you know, like, because Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is pretty much the reason we're having this conversation.
Yeah, you love that. You like Hunter S. Thompson, yeah? You're kind of fan of his. You pretty know more about him than I do. I mean, yeah. What do you think about him? It's very complicated.
I kind of trained. My initial thing was that I was going to be the next. I was going to come down to London, be a sports journalist, with the idea of trying to sort of create my own gonzo journalism type brand. And I was, honing my skills. I think my writing is still some of the closest I've seen to his. And there's a few things that people who try to imitate him don't understand, that are quite sort of subtle things that I think I kind of captured a bit better. It's a shame. The thing is, I got sidetracked by music, and then all my creative energy went into that. So I wouldn't mind revisiting writing when I've got a bit more time. I just don't have the frigging time at the moment. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, no, Hunter. Yeah, look, what an amazing, the music that he wrote with music. Actually, he wrote his what I meant to say is, like, his writing kind of had a musicality to it.
Okay, really? Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It swings along. It's something amazing about it.
Oh yeah, that's it. It's like
he's an odd guy. There's rumors about his private life and things, his death, his manner of death, and everything. And he's half delirious on drugs most of the time, but he alludes to the Illuminati, and he alludes to things we can't talk about, the evil things that they do, like they do. He's been in anyway.
His son,
rumors. Have you heard the rumors about him?
I know. Yeah, his son. I forget.
Don't say anything. Don't say the words. Don't express. Try not to express if you know what I'm talking about. But yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. So
you know what I'm talking about. Right? He filmed some videos.
I wasn't going to say about that. I was going to say that basically when he did apparently kill himself, he was going around telling people that he was on the verge of revealing something. He found something about 9/11.
Oh God, really?
That he was on the
verge. He was whacked. He was just whacked, pure and simple. Then he was whacked. Yeah.
I'd have to kind of revisit the sort of report around the nature of the thing. But because obviously, I know.
You could say, you give us a little fill in about Hunter S. Thompson, because I don't really know a lot about him apart from obviously Fear and Loathing and such, and the movie adaptation with Johnny Depp.
With the way that you do, one of the main ways in which gonzo journalism and gonzo writing works, and it's actually very easy to do. It's actually kind of like quite ironically easy to do, even though it is a fantastically sort of like elaborate and flamboyant way of writing. It's just to take a situation that you've been in and exaggerate it. It's like selective exaggeration, or sometimes we call it selective grotesquerie. That's why he worked with Ralph Steadman, the artist, who again was the same kind of approach, but just with art, right? He would take Steadman. This is the thing you'd always joke, because have you ever seen a Ralph Steadman art picture?
Yeah, I have. He illustrated with Noel and I the video of the video cover and the art for I think the DVDs and the videotape. Well, I think back in the day, literally videotape, it was like 94 when I first saw that. There's someone in the student flat, someone had a copy of it, and I heard about it with Noel and I saw a copy, and the next day it turned out there was an actual. They were screening it at the National Theatre, South Bank, and I took my girlfriend at the time there, and it was full of arseholes doing all the voices and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It was like it's like watching The Exorcist at Prince Charles Cinema on Friday night at midnight, and everyone's just pissed and fucking off their heads and laughing at this horror movie. But it's one of those funny experiences you have, like in London sometimes, watching cult movies, you know.
If you put just one sec, let me just show you. We can share some of Stedman's stuff so people, anyone watching, can actually see.
Yeah, go on, bro. Yeah, I'm familiar with him. Yeah, but
just stop sharing Feynman, and I'll
stop sharing, bro. Yeah, I'll do it right now, bro. Hang on. Is that right? What do I? Okay, wait.
I can't share this until you stop that, basically.
Yeah, stop. All right, and yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you just like, obviously, if we scroll down, you can immediately see the type of stuff that he was doing. This kind of like mad, crazy, grotesque, kind of like surrealism.
Yeah. So he illustrated. Did he illustrate? He did Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Is that
yeah,
right?
he did all the books. He did like Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Well, not all the books. Sorry, I misspeak there. But yeah, any art that you see on a Hunter S. Thompson book, I think Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I think one other, I forget. But any bits of art you see on any covers are Ralph Steadman art. There are other things like Songs of the Doom, which has a picture of Hunter S. Thompson shooting a typewriter in the snow on the front. But there's some Steadman illustrations, I think, on the back. So yeah, he's always been his illustrator. But the funny story I was going to say is like, Hunter S. Thompson started taking Steadman out to places where he'd go and be covering like whatever it is, like whatever sort of event it is, and people would come and get their portraits done by Steadman.
Right.
People wouldn't know what what kind of style Steadman.
Yeah. It's almost a psychedelic sort of horror thing, isn't it? So it's almost
so Steadman would like just do
capturing
things like
something.
Or like someone would sit down and then they sit there for like 20 minutes and Steadman would turn around and give them something like that. And they would just react with like shock and horror. it's quite, and then like apparently he would just like repulse most of the people, but he used to find it hilarious. It is kind of hilarious, but yeah, he is the perfect artist for that writing stage. He's kind of like the perfect sort of representation of the sort of thing that HST would write, isn't it?
Okay, so we're gonna go back to Richard Feynman actually for a little. So is he still there? Gosh, okay, I'm jumping around because we only got like a minute of this because that's good.
Mechanical way.
Can you hear? Is that okay with you, Future? Can you hear?
I still hear it, yeah.
I'm not swiftly moving on and blanking your question, but I just want to skip onto this because I'm conscious of time. And I feel a sense that we need to unify this and see the last bit of it, and then we'll talk about that stuff. Yeah.
So the way I'm going to do this is by a mixture of analogy and contrast. If I made a pure analogy, we would fail. So it must be by analogy and contrast to things that you're familiar with. And so I make it by analogy and contrast first.
So I'll probably stop there actually with that bit. Nietzsche.
The behavior of particles, for which I will use bullets. And second, the behavior of waves, for which I will use, say, water waves or sound waves. So we begin. First to discuss in a particular, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invent a particular experiment and first tell how it would behave, what the situation would be in that experiment using particles, what you would expect to happen if the waves were involved, and then what happens when there are actually electrons or photons in the system. And I will just take this one experiment which has been designed to contain all of the mystery of quantum mechanics, to put you up against the paradox.
All right, so that's quite important. That's something that's quoted from Richard Feynman, is that the one experiment, the double slit experiment, contains all of the mystery of quantum mechanics. I'll just try and replay that. Bear with.
Mechanics, to put you up against the paradoxes and mysteries and peculiarities of nature.
Skipped him again.
Expect to happen if the waves were involved, and then what happens when there are actually electrons or photons in the system. And I will just take this one experiment which has been designed.
Double slit experiment.
To contain all of the mystery of quantum mechanics, to put you up against the paradoxes and mysteries and peculiarities of nature 100%.
The mysteries and peculiarities of nature. It's very interesting, the terminology he's using.
Can always
really fascinating. That is. What do you think of that psychologically? I think.
I think that's the correct psychological approach for a scientist to have. Like in contrast to what he was kind of like saying about.
What's the humility before the mystery of it?
Basically, yeah.
Incredible.
Well, this is kind of what I meant by the kind of like sound arrogant when they're just dismissing it. It's like you're supposed to be it's one thing if the man in the common man or woman in the street is dismissing these ideas, but you're supposed to be a scientist. Your job is to question things and to find shit out, not to just sort of go, well, that's not possible.
He kind of shrugged. He's great. He's a great guy. I mean, he's obviously one of the greats. We'll just have, I think it's 30 more seconds or so.
No worries.
To contain all of the mystery of quantum mechanics, to put you.
Yeah, so that one experiment contains all of the mysteries of quantum mechanics. It's all in this one double slit experiment, and it's something that we need to be something to look into. I think I've talked about it before, but it's kind of complicated.
We can go into the next show. Maybe we can do a bit about the double slit.
We could go into it. I think I've talked about it before a little bit, and how the double slit experiment and other experiments can actually do time travel and things in simultaneous and like work back in time. So there's actual retro causality in the quantum eraser experiment, for instance. There are many elaborations on the double slit experiment, but some of they're all testing to find the nature of light, and they're trying to observe the unobservable. And they're doing tests and sending light in all directions through mirrors, through prisms, but through smoked glass where 50% travels through, the other gets rebounded, silvered glass, and just trying to if they can, they find that one particle of light, if it's particle isn't the word, but a quanta, if it's somehow connected to another quanta in a system, which is what it is, it's entangled, as they say, quantum entanglement, then any reading from this other particle will affect the other quanta, no matter how remote and distant it is. It's like Einstein rejected this because he hated it, because he didn't like the idea of traveling through time. He hated that idea. Right. But in these elaborations on the double slit experiment, it can be demonstrated that the quanta can travel through time and have a trans-temporal action, if you know what I mean, right?
So, but didn't Einstein, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't part of what Einstein's theories state or later lead to the idea of time dilation, which is obviously essentially traveling through time forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, there is definitely, obviously, there's time isn't absolute, and time is something that is connected to the four-dimensional state of reality, because
like the time dilation is the idea, obviously, that because I totally believe that it's a real thing. I just wondered if it was Einstein that had kind of talked about it before, because and obviously, like biologically, you slow down, like the fact. That's
the theory of relativity. Yeah, that's Einstein. Yeah. There's no absolute perception of time, but it's also what I talked about before with bugs and things, right? You bring it down to a thing, you think, oh, bugs, how do bugs perceive time? You know, everything's completely different for them. So it's like you become aware by thinking about that there's actually just what is time? It's infinite slices of something, a growing four-dimensional expanding universe, and time is part of it, and gravity as well, because as Einstein demonstrated, it's like a tablecloth universe, right? So a heavy planet, like a big saucer full of tea, is going to put an imprint on that fabric of that tablecloth. And that tablecloth, that deep thing, that's gravity. That's how it works. So gravity is a product of the shape of the expanding four-dimensional universe. It's like a membrane. Hawkins and Einstein agree with that anyway. So, but it's how you got to, So it's quite cool kind of.
So what Feynman is saying basically is like observe, not obfuscate. A proper scientist tries to observe, not obfuscate. And like there's too many of scientists who still try to obfuscate. But the thing is about time, like we know ourselves temporally. Like say, if you were to sit in front of a wall and just watch the wall for 90 minutes, and I watched a football match involving like the team I support or whatever, or whoever, for 90 minutes, time is going to go faster for me, much faster for me. So we even have a relativity in that kind of.
Yeah. But that's a very good point. Yeah, it's kind of a good point. Yeah, I'll just finish off a bit more of this Richard Feynman.
I'm going to have to bounce in a few minutes. That's all.
Okay, no, good. Okay, no problem. I mean, we've had a good show, so I'll just wrap up this maybe put a tune on or something, and then we'll split it. Yeah, what do you think? Put a song on? I want to put Into the Sun on, but it's the long one. But if you want, we can just do this, and I'll put the song on, and you can bounce before.
The show. That's fine, man. We'll do that. That's a good plan.
Okay.
And mysteries and peculiarities of nature, 100%. Any other situation in quantum mechanics it turns out, can always be explained afterwards by saying, you remember the case of the experiment with the 2 holes? It's the same thing.
The double
So
slit. It's such a simple experiment. That's the thing about it. It's so simple, but what the implications of it are so mind-shattering to these scientists. It's really kind of cool. But anyone can understand the double slit experiment, really, if they come at it, without preconceptions. I'll just stop yapping for a bit. I'll continue.
About the experiment with the 2 holes, which is the general mystery, does contain the general mystery. I am avoiding nothing. I am bearing nature in her most elegant and difficult form.
Yeah, bearing nature in the most difficult and elegant form. That's a key quote of his as well.
So they start with bullets. Then all the
anyway, he's going to go on about he doesn't explain the experiment very well, in my opinion. But so anyway, yeah. So that's a little thing we can work on. Anything else you want to talk about Future Shock before we can just put a tune on? We'll put a tune on and we'll say goodnight to all the humans out there. And anything else?
I would just say, yeah, like one takeaway is to watch The Big Lebowski if you haven't, and go look up some Hunter S. Thompson writing if you haven't, because they're both equally amazing bits of work, really. So yeah, definitely recommended. And remember to observe, not obfuscate. Observe, not obfuscate. My message for the night.
Okay, so yeah, so super slick. I'm scrolling and found what I'm looking for. Yeah, guys, man, so what is it? Wednesday? Keep tumbling and try not to get killed by the sun, because the sun is active. Appease the sun. In fact, we need rain. We should all, the few of us who are here in this, observing this podcast, we should calm the sun, because the sun's getting out of control now.
Well, now you just reminded me of, wasn't there some experiment where they tried to make it rain, and then it rained somewhere? This is very, very basic remembering by me. Wasn't there
loads of such stuff? Yeah. I mean, they're literally.
I remember it from the Ike Forum.
Oh yeah, that's my thing. I did that. Yeah, that we did that in Wagga Wagga in Australia.
I was going to say it's Australia. Yeah.
During a drought. It was amazing. It was a really cool experiment. We made it rain. We could talk about that next time. I've got the whole.
We'll put that on the marker for next time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff.
Make it rain.
Yeah. That's awesome. You could do it, but you need to connect with people's minds at one time, and you have that same intention at that time, or you have it as a ongoing thought, and you can use pictures and ideas and locations in your mind to give it some concrete reality. But we should do that. We should all be.
From what I remember from your experiment, not only did you just make it rain when you wanted, you made it rain at a time and a place where it didn't usually rain. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was during the extreme drought in Australian summer. Because if you remember the David Icke Forum, there was a lot of Australian people. Lime Lady was so cool. She was instrumental in helping this thing a lot.
I actually remember. It's funny how your memory is not that bad sometimes. And I remember that name. Yeah.
Yeah, she was really cool. She had like a lime grove. She was a lime farmer or something from Australia, and she was managing the forum. But she was super cool and really on board with, well, we could believe in it and we can do it, And so you do. You just try and do it, man.
Well, that's kind of the thing, and that is sort of like that's a good thing to end on, because that is the theme of this is what Feynman's kind of saying as well. It's like saying to sort of believe in it, and then we can figure it out. We can make progress, observe it, and see where we go. We don't just dismiss things. Don't just think, that can't be done.
Well,
is it?
It just tells me that there's the vacuum, like I said before, God in the gap, God of the gaps. But there is a vacuum there's a huge chasm of the most fundamental things in science and reality, that structure of everything that science doesn't and can't and is unable to understand. I don't really know anyone out there who actually kind of understands quantum mechanics in this way. I mean, in this way that. It is literally crossing over with something like I won't say wish fulfillment, but something like the power of magic. You know what I mean? Honestly, magic has always been a thing, but what they were doing was tapping into the quantum realm and such. By thought, by intent, by will, by whatever powers there
We
powers
call
there.
things magic when they're not properly understood. I mean, you know, it's just, what is it? Magic is just a technology that is sufficiently advanced. I can't remember who said that, but was it even Carl Sagan? No, not.
Yeah, I do think that that's quantum stuff, though. I think magic isn't science as we understand it. I think it's quantum realm stuff. I mean, I know it is. You know.
Listen, I do have to go now. So I do have to head off now, but it's been a fun show. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we'll get that. Yeah.
To all people who've been tuned in, cheers for tuning in. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at FutureDMBUK. Give us a like here, subscribe to the channel. We will be here every week. I think, are we going to start doing this regularly on a Tuesday or Wednesday? We're going to have to.
We should do that. We'll crack. We should just crack on because we have a bit of a laugh, I think. So.
But yeah, so no, it's
see how it goes. Yeah, we'll be informal, but we might drop out. We might drop in on any day, but that could work Sunday and midweek stuff or some such, you know.
But yeah, so if you, in terms of like listening for us, obviously we'll announce what we're doing. So what would it be better for people to follow at J Truthspoon probably for announcements?
Yeah, sure. But check out my website truthspoon.com and check out quantumportal.net. So truthspoon.com, loads of interesting articles and free books to download, and books you can even buy if you want to. But the books you can download them for free or you can buy them. It depends on if you want to send me a few.
Edited by me, so there we go.
Edited by,
well, one of them edited by me anyway.
Well, was it? Yeah, which one was it? The
Light
the Darkness, the one I wrote in Morocco.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate that. And you were, of course, you're part of it. You're part of the experiment, you know.
Well, yeah. So it still blows my mind that experiment. It really, like, quite literally. But I don't know. I think that, just before I go, I mean, I think that really doing that experiment really where I kind of manifested like from a 10p up to finding a full travel card. That really kind of like solidified in my mind that this was actually real stuff. You know, that's
really cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I will have to go now. Cheers for that.
Direct experience. Yeah.
Cheers for that. I'll see you guys soon. And enjoy the music. I will be back soon with yourself. Keep tumbling.
Totally awesome. Yeah. And I'm just going to fumble. You're tumbling. I'm fumbling. I can't find the track. Okay. Fumbling. And I found it. And good night, everyone. Take care.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about the kids today. I think they're fucked. There's no future for them. There's no jobs. The majority of them are having to still live at home with parents because they can't afford rent. They can't afford to get a mortgage. Fuck home. So, a lot of them are just sat at home on games, wasting a life away. Thinking that that's going to be their future is just playing games and wanking, and wanking's not an applicable skill. I mean, they don't have any applicable skills. I mean, they don't know how to cook. They don't know how to fucking clean. They don't know how to. They can't dig a fucking garden because they sat at home all day on a fucking chair. Yeah, they don't know how to lay a brick, fucking tile. Don't know how to do fuck all. They need to start learning how to do these skills. They need to start getting off the fucking phones and getting off the computers and living in the fucking real world, not the digital world, because the digital world is, that's going to fucking enslave them all. Yeah, they're not numerate or literate, you know what I mean, and they just don't know their numbers and fucking words. All they know is fucking dots on the screen. It's, They have no unifying faith, yet they've got diversity, and I guess wokeness is their faith now. But yeah, it's some weird new virtue signalling, pedophilic intersectionalism. And intersectionalism was the foundation of communism. Kids are being groomed by everybody to be this way. So perhaps we can change that. Perhaps we should groom them as to we want them to have better faith in humanity again. Teach them skills like cooking, getting out, exercise, fucking hell, anyone can do that. Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, just look around, how many fat little bastards are there out there? It's not normal, it's tragic. Other than fucking the health implications. It's not good. Because the apocalypse is coming because of this generation's weakness. And this generation's weakness is a direct result of successive generations getting weaker and weaker, and lazier and lazier. And we've ended up with this generation as the laziest, fattest, stupidest, wokest, most childish bunch of useless bastards we've ever seen. And it's all fault, because it's these bell ends which are causing the apocalypse. But wouldn't it be great if even post-apocalypse that there was some great guy who wanted to do the right thing, who cared about posterity, who wanted to bring the kids up right, to venerate the elder wisdom, unifying them, and murderers towards all those Greta Thunbergs out there.
my little ones, have you been praying today? I pray you've been praying, my little ones, praying that we'll be okay? Have you been praying, my little ones? Have you been praying tonight? I pray you've been praying, my little ones, praying that we'll be alright. Gather those branches, little ones, gather the wood for the fire. All you can find now, little ones, are before the snows get much higher. Anything that burns now, little ones, anything that you may find. Gather it fast now, little ones, so before the snow makes us blind. Keep the fire roaring, little ones, keep the house holy and warm. Close every window and bar every door to weather this season of storm. Waltz at the door, my little ones, and there's no time to waste on your games. Open your hearts, my little ones, open your hearts to the flames. Heat up your blades now, little ones, when they glow red how they slice. Away the frost and the fallen, away the harshness of ice. Put your face close to the fire, my dear, hold it till you feel it burn. Do you know that it's God's love, my dear? It means the things that you must learn. Keep to your prayers now, little ones, many moons till we are done. Keep your face close to the fire and not for soon we shall kill in the sun. Burn bright the fire at the forge again, and while we now clasp hands and kneel, answer our prayers now, Almighty Lord, our God of the fire and steel. Your violence every day, you're fighting the light of the Lord. Only choose silence when you pray to the flame of the sword. 10,000 times every move is made, a hammer the steel into shape. An army as far as the eye can see, flaming swords like the landscape. Into his eyes in the masquerade, a terrible display of skill. The novices are all the last to see, of the speed in which fire can kill. All of the children now move as one, the swords of fire swallow the night. Into the furnace, into the sun, all that is left is the light. And the seas we should sail will be fire and blood, all will be butchered and torched. For on the morning it is the dawning of an earth barren and scorched.
clean.